Inshallah, in today's talk regarding the Hayat Sahaba, we will be continuing our talks on the life of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anh. Today is the third talk, and inshallah, my target will be to cover the acceptance of Islam of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, and then two more topics regarding his call to the call of Islam to the others, and some of the trials and tribulation that Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, he went through because of his acceptance of Islam and calling people towards Islam. So when it comes to acceptance of Islam of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, most of us probably hear this thing about Abu Bakr, that he was one of those people who accepted the Islam right away. But I think it's good to understand the little bit the life of little bit of his life before Islam, and that will give us an idea actually that why it felt as if the moment Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam called him towards Islam and he right away accepted it. It was because of there was a lot of thinking, contemplation, and his experiences in life were the cause that at the end when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was calling for Islam, and he announced his prophethood, it was very easy for him to accept Islam. So inshallah, I'll give a little bit of life of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh prior to Islam, but what was his take on looking for the truth or the haqq. So to be fair, if we try to put him in a nutshell, that we can see that Abu Bakr's acceptance of Islam was in reality a result of a long spiritual journey in search of the true religion, which was harmonious with the human nature, the fitrah of the human being, and which responds to the human inclinations and in accordance with sound reasoning and deep insight. And that one of the reasons for that was his trading activities, as we talked about a bit in the previous talks, that Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, he was a merchant, and he used to travel, and specifically he traveled to Asham quite a bit. And when we talk about traveling, for example, Makkah is quite a bit in the south of the peninsula, and Sham was in the north. So there's a long distance from Makkah to Sham or Damascus. And on the way, it's not like today, you just sit in an airplane and you get to the place in a couple of hours. That's not how it was. You are traveling on camels or horses or on your foot. Actually, mostly camels because of the deserts. So that kind of a traveling experiences resulted in Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh. He met many different kinds of people. He traveled in wilderness, the deserts, and on and on. And he was in touch with some of the Christians as well, and the people of other religions besides Christianity. So the people in Mecca were the ones who were idol worshippers. There were few who accepted Christianity, and some of them who actually rejected the idol worshipping, and they were looking for a monotheist or a religion in which you worship only one God, one Allah. So he was in touch with all these people, but traveling actually made a huge difference. And while he was always in search of the true religion, and we talked about in the previous week's talk that Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, he never worshipped idols. As a matter of fact, when his father asked him, put him in a room and said, "This is your God, worship him," and he rejected from the very first time. Now, one of the stories which is mentioned, one of the hadith, if you want to call him, about Abu Bakr Siddiq is that says that Abu Bakr, he mentioned himself that he says that I was sitting in the haram, And Zayd bin Amr bin Nufail, he was the father of Sa'id bin Zayd radiallahu an. And Sa'id bin Zayd was one of the Sahaba who was from the Ashra Mubashara, meaning the one who were given the glad tidings of Jannah in the dunya by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Zayd bin Amr bin Nufail, he was a person who actually rejected idol worshipping before even Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam became prophet, and he actually died before Rasulullah was appointed as the prophet. But he rejected idol worshipping, and he used to say that he worshiped only one God, but he did not know how to worship. He believed in one God, but he did not know how to worship him. Now, so Abu Bakr Siddiq mentioned that he was sitting in the haram, and Zayd bin Amr bin Nufail was sitting there as well. And Umayyah bin Abi As-Salt, he passed by and asked Zayd bin Amr, "How are you, O seeker of good?" So he is calling him seeker of good. And Zayd replied, "I am well." And Umayyah asked, "Have you found it yet?" So Zayd's answer was no. So Umayyah said, "On the day of resurrection, every religion, every deen, every religion except the religion or the deen of monotheism, meaning the one who believe in one God, or Hanafiya. So he will be to no avail, meaning unless you were Hanif, meaning the one who believe in one God, you will not have any success on the day of judgment." That's what Umayyah said to him, because Umayyah was one of those people who also was used to talk about believing in one God. Anyway, so he went on and he said, "Indeed, there will be a awaited prophet, either from among us or among you." So this is what Umayyah said to Zayd bin Amr bin Nufail. And Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu an, he was listening to this conversation. Before this, he never heard of awaited prophet who would be sent. So Abu Bakr said that I went for looking for Waraqa bin Nawfal, and he was one of those people who accepted Christianity, and he used to actually study the Injil, and he used to, some of the riwayah say he used to translate as well. So he went there. He said, Abu Bakr said, I stopped. He was looking for him. I stopped him and told what had been said, meaning the conversation that happened between Umayyah and Zayd. So Waraqa bin Nawfal confirmed, and he said, "O son of my brother, we are the people of book," meaning talking about Christians, Ahlul Kitab. So we are the people of books and knowledge, but the prophet who is awaited will be one of the best of the Arabs in the terms of lineage. He will be coming from one of the best lineage of the Arab. So I have knowledge of lineage, and your people, referring to Quraysh, are the best in terms of the lineage. So Abu Bakr said, "Oh uncle, what will this prophet say?" And Waraqa said, he will say what he is told to say, meaning he will just say as whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him to say. And he will not wrong others or be wrong or be involved in any wrongdoing. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala I believed in him and followed him. So he said, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appointed Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abu Bakr said, then I accepted him. So this is one of the incidents that's mentioned where Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh came across the knowledge regarding the awaiting prophet. So he had the knowledge of a prophet will be coming. That's one thing. Second thing, he already rejected idol worshipping, and he was in touch with other adyan, other religions, and other kinds of people, and discussing. Then there's another incident. It was mentioned about Abu Bakr. And Abu Bakr, he said that when he was in Syria, he saw a dream in which, and that dream he narrated to Bahira. Bahira, if go back to the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is the same monk who met Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was young, and he was on his way to he was in Syria with his uncle Abu Talib. And Bahira recognized Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he asked Abu Talib to take him back or send him back. And so that was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's meeting with Bahira. Now here, when Abu Bakr met Bahira, so Bahira asked him, because he mentioned to him about his dream. So Bahira asked him, where are you from? And he replied, from Makkah. Abu Bakr said, from Makkah. And then he asked, which tribe? And his answer was Quraysh. Then Bahira said, what is your profession? And he said, I'm a tajir, or a merchant. So now, when then Bahira said, if Allah makes your dream come true, he didn't even talk about what the dream was here, meaning the story is not about the dream itself, but when he heard about that, he said, if your dream comes true, a prophet will be sent from among your people, and you will be his advisor. And like one of the hadith referred to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anh as him and Umar al-Khattab as two of the wazir on the earth for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he used to consult both of them. So Bahira mentioned that you will be his advisor, and after while he is alive, and when he passes away, you will be his successor, which means Bahira is mentioning that he will be his Khalifa, meaning the successor or Khalifa to Rasul, successor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh kept this knowledge to himself at that time. And then Abu Bakr, while he was searching and waiting for the Prophet, and he used to think about that, and he had he was a thinker, and he had deep level of knowledge. He was not the one who would be following just superficial kind of a knowledge. And when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he started getting the revelation. Now, and he went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Of course, as we know, that he went to his wife Khadija radiallahu anha. And then when he was going to his close people, Abu Bakr was a very close friend of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for a long time. So when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told him about him being appointed as the prophet, and he was aware of the characteristics that were mentioned about the prophet that will be coming, and the awaited prophet from the Arabs, from the tribe of Quraysh, and he knew about Rasulullah very well. So he knew that when he said that he is the one who has been appointed, he already was aware of all those signs that was mentioned that existed in Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Hence, his response was very quick, and he accepted Islam right away. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned about Abu Bakr's Islam like this: Allah sent me to Quraysh, and he said that Allah sent me to you, Quraysh, and you said that you are lying, meaning they referred to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a liar. However, Abu Bakr said he is telling the truth, meaning he is the one who right away accepted the Islam that Rasulullah presented to him. And he defended me, Rasulullah said, and supported me financially. Will you leave my companion alone for me? He's referring to Abu Bakr Siddiq, leave him alone. And he mentioned that twice. And this hadith of Rasulullah is mentioned by Bukhari. Now, so this is, as I said, we should not just look at that the moment he was given Islam and he just blindly accepted Islam, whatever a friend is just saying. It was a long process that Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, he went through, but the moment it was given to him by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was aware of all those things that was supposed to be seen in the Prophet, and he accepted, because the message that was given was the haqq, was the truth. Now, there is quite a bit of, you find differences among the mu'arrikhin, historians, and the fuqaha, that when they are discussing who was the one who accepted Islam the first. And Ibn Kathir, rahimahullah, he is the one who actually put together in a very nice way, because normally the discussion or the confusion happens is whether it was Khadija radiallahu anha, or Abu Bakr, or Zayd or Ali radiallahu anhu, which one among them was the first who became Muslim. So it was so close to each other that this is why the confusion is. But in general, the agreement about the first one goes to Khadija radiallahu anha. But Ibn Kathir says like this. He says Khadija radiallahu anha was the first woman to embrace Islam. And he says Zayd bin al-Haritha radiallahu an was the first freed slave to accept Islam. And Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu an was the first child to embrace Islam because he was still have not hit the puberty. He was still a child. So he is referred as the first child to embrace Islam. And finally, Abu Bakr Siddiq was the first free man to embrace Islam. So all these four, about whom normally the discussion goes back and forth, who was number one, number two, or and on and on. So Ibn Kathir put him in a nice way that actually each one among these four were first in a category. So it doesn't really matter after that. Okay, and then one thing about Abu Bakr was when he accepted Islam, his response was actually right away, he started calling the others towards Islam as well. He did not just keep the Islam to himself, meaning he started going towards his own close friends. And as a matter of fact, he was like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about calling the people to Islam. He says, "Ud'u ila sabili rabbika bil hikmati wal mu'izati al hasana wajadilhum billati ahsan inna rabbaka huwa a'lamu biman dalla an sabili wa huwa a'lamu bil muhtadin." Invite to the way of your Lord with wisdom and good. Wisdom means hikmah, and hikmah here is from Islam. Not wisdom means just use your mind and come up with something of your own. And good instructions, and argue with them in a way that is best. Indeed, your Lord is most knowing of who has strayed from his way, and he is most knowing of who he is rightly guided. So when it comes to calling for Islam, we see Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu an, he was very good, he was very eloquent, the way he used to talk to the people. He was very soft-spoken person, and he started calling to the ones who were very close to him. We are aware of right away his family members, especially Roman, the wife, Asma bint Abi Bakr, Aisha radiallahu anha, and his son Abdullah. They enter into full Islam right away. We talked about last week that the father and the other son, Abdurrahman, and Abu Quhafa, the father, they did not accept Islam for long period of time. As we know, his father, Abu Quhafa, he became Muslim about 21 years after Rasulullah became prophet. And Abdurrahman, it took him about 19 years after that. After Sulh Hudaybiyah, he entered into fold of Islam. Now, but Abu Bakr, he started off with his family and the close people. Besides his family members, the other close ones, who his friends who accepted Islam, but in his hand, on his hand was Az-Zubair ibn al-Awwam, Uthman bin Affan, Talha bin Ubaidullah, Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas, Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah, and Abdurrahman bin Auf. So these six, which I mentioned, they were from the 10 to whom Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he gave the glad tidings of entering into Jannah in this dunya. These six, and besides them are Uthman bin Ma'adun, Abu Salama bin Abdul Asad, and Arqam bin Arqam radiyallahu anhum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with them all. But the point I'm trying to make here is, so these were the 9, and these were Akabir Sahaba, meaning they were the big famous Sahaba among the rest of the Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But among these 9 names I mentioned, 6 of them who became Muslim was through Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, who were from the Ashra Mubashira, the one who were given the glad tidings in this while they were alive, and the 7th one was Abu Bakr himself. So the only 3 other who actually did not enter or did not accept Islam through Abu Bakr direct effort was Ali, Umar bin Khattab, and Sa'id bin Zayd radiallahu anhum. But besides them, the rest of them actually accepted Islam from Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. That actually shows something, which is that how big of a status of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu was, inshallah, will be in the Jannah as well. Because if you look at the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu regarding guiding the people towards Islam or guiding the people to do the right thing, we realize that how much of a ajr Abu Bakr would have gotten because of bringing them to Islam. One of the hadith Rasulullah sallallahu said, "Wallahi, لأن يهدي الله بك رجلا خير لك من أن يكون لك حمر النعم." It says, yeah, Rasulullah sallallahu said, and this hadith is mentioned by this part of the hadith. Actually, this part is a longer hadith. I just took part of that hadith from Bukhari. And the meaning of the hadith is, Wallahi, by Allah, لأن يهدي الله بك رجلا خير لك من أن يكون لك حمر النعم, which means that by Allah, that guiding to somebody, the guidance of somebody through you is better than Humrul Na'am means the red camels. And the red camels actually is a way of saying this something very, very expensive that you're trying to say. So just bringing a person to Islam is much more expensive than that. That's one aspect. Other of the hadith says, Man dalla ala khairin falahu mithlu ajri fa'ilihi. The hadith of Rasulullah, this hadith is reported by Imam Muslim, says, he who guides others on an act of goodness will have a reward similar to that of its doer. Another hadith, and nothing will be taken away from him, the one who's doing the good deed. But if a person has come to Islam because of you, now he is following, doing the good deeds because you are the one who showed him the right path. While he's doing the good deeds, you are getting the hasanat because of that, because you put him on the track. Another hadith says, Man da'a ila hudan kana lahu min al-ajr mithlu ujuri man tabi'ahu la yanqusu dhalika min ujurihim shay'a wa man da'a ila dalalatin kana alayhi min al-ithmi mithlu atham man tabi'ahu la yanqusu dhalika min athamihim shay'a. The hadith says that he who called people to righteousness, that will be rewarded for him like the rewards of those who followed it, without their reward being diminished in any aspect. And those who call for dalala, for the deviation or the wrong path, he shall have to carry the burden of the sin of that person as well, like those who committed it without their sins being diminished in any respect. This hadith is reported by Imam Muslim. So now taking these hadith in context and think of Abu Bakr, why the kind of people he brought to Islam. And these were just a few the names I mentioned, because these names are the one who actually entered into fold of Islam in a very early stages of Islam. Okay, now moving forward, when Islam, Muslims were calling people towards Islam, Rasulullah was calling people towards Islam in the beginning of the Meccan era. We know that Sahaba and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they all went through many difficult times, especially the weak companions. And the slaves were the main target for them, because they are the ones who may not have strong backing, or they were not strong people, so they became easy target for the Quraysh. But they were not the only ones who went through all these hardships. Even the ones who were, you want to call them as upper class of the Makkah or the Quraysh, even Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was from the Quraysh, and he was from a very noble family, even from the perspective of the Jahiliyyah. Even him was not able to be protected from the harms of the Meccans. So Abu Bakr was not an exception either. And one of the incidents, and it's an important incident, I want to bring it up because that will show the strength of Abu Bakr, because Abu Bakr, people think whenever his name comes up as if he was just a mellow person, he was a halim and soft-spoken and all that, but we find that he was a very strong believer of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of Islam. And so this story is reported by Aisha radiallahu anha, and she said, when they were about 38 Muslims, Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, he urged Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to openly preach the message of Islam at that time. Now, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's response to Abu Bakr was that we are few in number, meaning at that time Rasulullah was trying to still grow the number to that extent that where they will call the people openly, as we discussed in the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that very clear stages in the Meccan life that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gathered a number of people around him. Once the number grew to a stronger number, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went openly by the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to call people towards Islam openly. And openly meant not only just talking about giving Islam openly, come believe in Allah without explaining what does it mean, because that openly meant actually to show the ills of the society, to show that the system that existed in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Meccan era time, it was a kufr system that has to be uprooted, and the system of Islam, or Islam, has to replace that way of life. And that's the thing that caused all the hardship. So at that time, Rasulullah told Abu Bakr that we are few in number. So he was not telling Abu Bakr to do this. But Abu Bakr continued to urge Rasulullah that to openly preach, until one day the Muslims spread out in the different parts of the Haram, of the Masjid, and in general, in this context of Meccan era, whenever the word Masjid is used, is referring to the Masjid al-Haram, which is the Kaaba. So they were in the Haram, and they spread out. And now, at that point, Abu Bakr stood up and he started giving a khutbah, meaning a lecture. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam he remained seated. He's not the one who was speaking like this. On that day, Abu Bakr became the first person to deliver a khutbah or a sermon, whatever you want to call him, in which he invited people towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So mushrikeen did not like it. They started they charged towards Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu and the other Sahaba, and they started beating them up. And the Quraysh gathered and they started beating them up. Abu Bakr was actually trampled upon and beaten severely. And one of the wicked person, Utbah bin Rabi'ah, he is the one who actually started beating up Abu Bakr with, he started striking his face. And he beat him up so much on his face that you could not distinguish where the nose was on his face. Meaning it was smashed so much, the nose, that you could not tell where the nose was on his face. Now, while this kind of a beating was happening, and this, if it would have continued on, they could have killed Abu Bakr Siddiq that day, obviously, if it was his time. But in fact, at that time, he almost died. But at that time, his people from his tribe, Banu Taym, they came and they somehow they defended him, even though it was late to defend him. But they took him, they picked him up and took him to his house. Now, after they took him to his house, they left him there. They were not sure if he's going to live or not, but they left him there. Now, they were kind of thinking that he is going to die now. This is why the people of Banu Taym, they came back to the Masjid al-Haram, and they actually took the oath that by Allah, if Abu Bakr dies, we will indeed kill Utbah bin Rabi'ah, the one who was basically the main wicked person who was beating up Abu Bakr Siddiq there. So now they returned back to Abu Bakr after they made this oath in front of in the Haram, and they went back to Abu Bakr and his father Abu Quhafa radiallahu an. Of course, he was not a Muslim at that time, and his father and the people of his tribe, they came back and started talking to Abu Bakr. And they first actually they tried to make sure that he's revived and he's alive. So they were able to revive him. It took him almost the rest of the day for him to come back in his senses, Abu Bakr. Now, after when he came back, they started talking to him, and Abu Bakr's first response to Abu Quhafa and Banu Taym was he started asking about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's well-being. How was he doing? Now this, because Banu Taym, they were not Muslims, and Abu Quhafa himself was not a Muslim, that actually kind of made them angry. that they just protected Abu Bakr from almost close to death kind of circumstances, and Abu Bakr is asking about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because they already were in a position of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he was calling for a deen that they did not like. Now, so they left him, and his father actually also left him with his mother, al-Khair, and basically they wanted him to her to feed him or take care of him. So al-Khair, she actually asked him to say, eat or drink something, and when only these two were left alone, now Khair was continuously asking him to eat, but Abu Bakr kept asking about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So at one point, point was reached that Khair, she goes, by Allah, I have no knowledge of your companion, and she was not a Muslimah here yet either. So now she said she doesn't know anything. But Abu Bakr said, okay, why don't you go to Jameel radiallahu anha? She was the sister of Umar al-Khattab and the daughter of al-Khattab, and she was a Muslim at that time. So Khair realized that Abu Bakr is not going to listen at this point, and she has to find out the well-being of Rasulullah somehow. So she started looking for Jameel, and when she went and asked about this, so Khair said, "Verily, Abu Bakr asked you about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam." And Jamil's anha's answer was, "I know neither Abu Bakr nor Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But if you want, I will go with you to your son." See, she did not want to break the news about the well-being of Rasulullah, or she was aware of where Rasulullah was at that point. So she actually hid that fact or the information about Rasulullah for his protection. So Khair said, and I mean, it can be taken as this, that Khair was, Jameel was saying that she was not aware of it at that time. So anyways, Khair said, okay, that's fine. And she took her, she took her back to her son Abu Bakr. Now, when Jameel radiallahu anha, when she saw Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anha, the kind of a pain he was in, the kind of injuries he had, so she said, by Allah, those who have done this to you are indeed people of wickedness and disbelief. Indeed, I hope that Allah takes revenge on them for you. Now Abu Bakr then asked how Rasulullah was again, even to Jameel. His response is still, he's only worried about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now Jameel's response was, your mother is here, because she knew that the mother of Abu Bakr was not a Muslimah, so she said, she's here. So he said, because she said, your mother is here, she's listening. So Abu Bakr said, reassured about the mother that you don't have to worry about her. So now, so at that time, Jameel said that he is safe and sound. Then Abu Bakr asked, where is he? So she said, answer about that she gave the know about of that he's at Darul Arqam bin Arqam. This is the same Sahabi that Rasulullah, that Abu Bakr Siddiq's effort he was a result of the work of Abu Bakr, that he became a Muslim. And his house was used, that we see that in the Meccan era, when Rasulullah was doing the dawah to the Meccans, he used to take the Muslims in the house of Darul Arqam bin Arqam to culture them, to teach them about Quran, to teach them about any kind of a wahi that was revealed at that time. And he was building those Sahaba who became the forefront of establishing the Islamic State in Medina, where they started implementing the Islam, and Islam spread from there. So we can see that how much of an ajr that Abu Bakr was also part of, because of he is the one who brought Arqam bin Arqam also into Islam as well. Besides the 6 Ashra Mubashara that we talked about, those 10 who were given the glad tidings in this dunya. But anyways, so now he was still weak, and he has not eaten anything. And Abu Bakr, he said it very clearly. He took the oath that he will not eat, he will not drink until he sees Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he makes sure that he was well. Now, Jameel and Khair, they realized that Abu Bakr is not going to calm down. He's not gonna do anything. So what they did was they delayed him to be taken to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because there was still some, this thing was still, the situation is still not calmed down. They were just beaten up, the Muslims, including Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh. And so they delayed Abu Bakr to be taken to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But after a while, they took him to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But Abu Bakr was weak. He was basically helped by both the women to be taken to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When finally they made it to the Al-Arqam bin Arqam, in the house of Al-Arqam bin Arqam radiallahu anh. He made it there, and when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw Abu Bakr, he hurried towards Abu Bakr and he kissed him, and other Muslims, they were there, also hurried to meet Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, and they were very happy to see him alive. Now, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, he said, my mother and father be sacrificed for you, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's talking about his pain, that the only hurt or only pain that I feel is a result of the blows of this fasiq, referring to Uqba bin Rabi'ah, the one hits that he hit him on his face, because he was striking Abu Bakr with his shoes on his face, and he mentioned, and that painful situation when he's in, he is worried about his mother at this point. And right away he said, hey, this is my mother who is faithful to her son, talking about himself, but and you are blessed, so invite her unto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and supplicate, make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for her. Perhaps through you Allah will save her from the hellfire. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made the dua for her, invited her towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and she responded to his invitation, and she became a Muslimah. Now it's a very interesting long incident that I mentioned, and this is inshallah that will be the end of the talk. But I want to just talk about a few lessons that we should take out of this long incident that occurred to Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh. Number one, Abu Bakr was very keen about proclaiming Islam, calling the people towards Islam, calling people Islam openly. And he was aware of consequences. It's not that he was not aware of the consequences. It's not like you have done something you did not know and you got hurt. No, he was aware of it, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was even telling him. But he continued to urge Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and one day they did it. And number two, it was all sorts of oppression was happening. Sahaba were getting oppressed, but Abu Bakr was keen about that, and he did it. Then Abu Bakr's another third quality we find here is the love of Allah and His Messenger. That how much he loved that, even though he had a near-death experience, and he was still worried about the well-being of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Number 4 point you see here is, which is important to also comprehend when we study the lives of Sahaba and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, also actually, that even though the tribe of Abu Bakr was, most of the people were not Muslim, but there was a role that tribalism played even in that time. That how they used to be, if you want to call it, there was a asabiya there, or there was some sort of a tribalistic bond that existed, that they were going to take the revenge for Abu Bakr if anything would have happened to Abu Bakr Siddiq. And they're the one who defended Abu Bakr also, and saved his life at that time. Okay, number 5, Jameel. She protected Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I mean, when even the mother of Abu Bakr came, and she's asking for the well-being of Rasulullah, and she's not giving the answer, because she wanted to make sure that, first of all, to see what happened to Abu Bakr. Second, do not leak out the information about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So she kept that information to herself. Number 6, Abu Bakr's kindness, look at towards his mother. He's not being disrespectful, and he insisted his mother to listen to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to make dua for his mother and call her towards Islam at the time when he was going through a lot of pain. the near-death experience that he just went through, and at that point, even he's worried about saving his mother from the hellfire. Number seventh lesson from that is Abu Bakr was the first one after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam who proclaimed Islam and called people towards Islam openly. The one who defended Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and who was harmed for proclaiming and calling people towards Islam. So he was, in that sense, he was the first one. So when we think about and talk about Abu Bakr as a big personality within the Islam, we should remember the kinds of actions that Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh took when there were not that many Muslims out there, and when even we will see later on, at any time of the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you will find that Abu Bakr was there for him. So inshallah, we'll stop here, and next week talk, inshallah, I will just take it from here and continue. But if there is any questions or comments about the subject that was covered today, that was one was acceptance, how Abu Bakr accepted Islam. Number two, his calling others towards Islam as a close friends and the family members, and then to call openly and the kinds of trials and tribulation that he went through because of that. So we'll stop here, inshallah, and if there's any questions or comments, inshallah, I will try to address if I can.
I think there seems to be a comment over there. It says, Assalamu alaikum, please recheck if Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu accepted Islam in the hands of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Rasulullah.
So the book I am following, which is mentioned, I believe it is from Ibn Ishaq. I can check the report directly also, but in there it is mentioned as 7 and 9 people which are mentioned are Zubair bin Awam, Uthman, Talha, Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas, Abu Ubaidah, and Abdul Rahman bin Auf. Sorry, not. So you're saying that probably him also. Okay. Maybe Abu Ubaidah was also, then it makes it 7 actually. Well, no, Abu Ubaidah was in there, so in the 6, yes. Okay, in the meantime, if there's any other question, inshallah, I will get back to you about the exact quote, inshallah. So the one I have is mentioned Zubair bin Awam, Uthman bin Affan, Talha bin Ubaidullah, Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas, Uthman bin Mad'un, Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah, Abdul Rahman bin Auf, Abu Salama, Abdul Asad, Abdul Asad, and Al-Arqam bin Arqam. So Abu Ubaidah ibn Jarrah's name is there as well.
Assalamu alaikum. You mentioned that Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala actually gave the dawah of Islam to his family members, and you mentioned Aisha radiallahu ta'ala in that. Were Aisha radiallahu ta'ala born at that time?
I mean, so Aisha So Aisha was not born, but she never seen any other religion but Islam. Yeah, so you may be right. Yeah. So it was Asma, Ruman, and Abdullah. Yeah. Jazakallah khair for pointing it out. Okay. Any other question? Yeah. So the book I was reading from, it mentioned Aisha, Abdullah, Roman, and actually Amr bin Fuhaira also, who became Muslim. Yeah, but that needs to be verified about Aisha radiallahu anha.
Okay. Anybody else have questions?
Okay.
You can type it or you can speak up.
Okay. Seems like there is no question, so we'll stop here, inshallah. There's nothing on YouTube, right?
Yeah, nothing on YouTube.
No.
Okay. جزاكم الله خيرا سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك واشهد ان لا اله الا الله واشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك ونتوب اليك جزاكم الله خيرا السلام عليكم ورحمه الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.